911, what's your emergency?
You're coming with us as a Christmas present.
911, can I help you? Hello?
There's two. I don't know what they are. People in costumes.
Ah, Christmas. A time for wonder, magic, joy, and miracles, apparently. Santa was looking down on us all with this one, and has renewed some faith in me that the ghosts of the past could deliver a fun-filled superhero space adventure that excites us with a heartwarming message at the core of it once more.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
What a beautiful time Christmas can be each year. Something that's now established to be universally celebrated coming out of this movie.
Very happy!
This holiday special is unlike any other franchise-based one to my knowledge, certainly something more than this. It was relatively calm by comparison of other movies to come from Disney and Disney Marvel this year, if I'm honest. It's something that isn't trying to push any messages or signal anything, it's just a simple story that admittedly has been told for years and years in multiple iterations that focuses on what the meaning of Christmas is for everyone, but that's okay. It doesn't always have to be a convoluted plot with interweaving aspects that culminate in one huge-ass battle, and if I'm recalling this correctly, this is the first of the Phase 4 entries for the MCU that starts off this formula, with delivering a special or a movie that doesn't culminate in a huge battle, and it was refreshing to see.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
After what's felt like 5 years since the brilliance that was No Way Home, I've been waiting for the MCU to deliver something that would excite me again, and as we draw to a close on 2022, I honestly had lost hope.
I want to have an opinion about those boring-ass Marvel movies.
Then I was reminded that we had the Guardians to round this year out, to come in and lift our spirits in the way they do best, with irreverent, slapstick, wacky antics, with a decent bit of action, rewarding callbacks, and a playlist that wrap it up nicely with a little bow on the end.
Good job.
This installment doesn't set up much directly for the next in the pipeline. It was a wholesome, simple, comedic adventure with nods to previous escapades involving the Guardians, and this mini-movie carried the most amount of connection to the past 3 phases than over half of Phase 4 ever did. With Black Panther Wakanda Forever still trying to grasp at that brass ring right now in the box office, the Disney Plus shows becoming colossal failures, and No Way Home being the only raving success in Phase 4, which I'd like to remind you wasn't even a Disney Marvel production, it was looking pretty bleak for the MCU at this point, and I was hesitant going into this knowing it's the epilogue to Phase 4 and how disastrous this has been, and I was concerned with James Gunn's recent dump of priorities at DC that he might not have the same amount of heart or energy put into this as he normally would, but I'm grateful to say that I was proven wrong.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
I won't lie, there were some rather heavy acknowledgements to his recent successes with the Suicide Squad, with visuals of DC actors and Fula Borg making a cameo in a bar, but it wasn't enough to detract from the brilliance of the short movie that focuses on the lack of joy that comes from Peter at this time of year, and the likely depression that he's feeling after the events of Infinity War and Endgame. So what's the story, Balamori? Well, to put it plainly, the Guardians are setting up shop in the head of the celestial nowhere, first introduced in the first Guardians movie, where they purchased it from the Collector, confirming his survival after Thanos' attack in Infinity War. As we see Star-Lord delegating below, Kraglin recounts a moment between himself, a young Peter Quill, and Yondu, with Michael Rooker returning for the role, where we see Peter try to implement the idea of Christmas on the ship, but the heartless bastard that he was on the surface, Yondu dismissed Peter's attempts at festivities, and that led to Peter always feeling depressed around this time of year, as it was essentially part of his innocence taken from him in that moment, as far as Kraglin was aware. Drax and Mantis take this to heart and acknowledge the disheartened state that Peter's in post-Endgame, and especially reeling after the fact that Gamora is gone. Unaware of what it might actually be to do with, however, they decide they want to give him the best gift they can, by tapping into their limited knowledge of his past and trying to get the legendary outlaw that danced to save an entire town, Kevin Bacon, as a gift for Peter Quill. Oh boy, you can see where this one's headed. The exploits of Drax and Mantis begin when they arrive in Hollywood, and after a few segments involving them becoming tourist attractions and losing a bunch of money in a bar, they eventually find their way to Kevin's house, where they make repeated attempts to get his attention until they break into his house, chase him down, and catch him after a run-in with the law enforcement. Mantis places Kevin into a trance, and upon returning to nowhere, surround Peter with the merriment he's not seen for some time, adding some truth to the idea that Yondu really did take something away from him despite how the story ends. Then, when Kevin is brought to Peter and he finds out what Drax and Mantis have been doing, he's furious with them and demands that they take Kevin back to Earth. While Kevin is getting ready to depart with Kraglin, Kraglin informs Kevin of what he meant to Peter growing up, and how big of an inspiration he became, acting almost as a superficial father figure to Peter, and almost being a sense of influence for Peter's eventual save of the galaxy.
And bring it down hard. Someday, put it together.
What are you doing?
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
Kevin manages to get the EE plan working and informs his family that he'll be late coming home, as he decides to stay and fulfill Mantis and Drax's desires to remind Peter of the joy that Christmas can bring, and allowing Quill to reconnect with that level of innocence he lost a long time ago. In the closing moments of the movie, Kevin wishes the crew well and departs back to Earth. Mantis asks Peter if this was enough, and through a faint smile he tries to reassure her that this was enough. But seeing through it, and Peter still looking disheartened, gets a warming reveal that Mantis is one of Ego's children, making her and Quill siblings. Beyond a post-credit scene that delivers on the old joke of Groot being a Christmas tree, that was it in terms of the plot for the movie and the direction of our characters. This was a breath of fresh air that I wanted from the MCU since Doctor Strange 2. This was just nonsensical, character-focused fun. Endgame was about Rocket and Nebula, Infinity War positioned Gamora at the centre, Guardians 2 was about Yondu and Peter, and Guardians 1, in my mind, was an introduction to them all, but we learnt the most about Drax, with his motivations being more prominent of the group in that movie. So to team Drax with Mantis taking the limelight in this one, it was an interesting way to progress and see things from her perspective. Growing from this youngish woman that wouldn't say boo to a goose, to then being the biggest tool in the fight against Thanos in Infinity War, and now driven to support her family and pushing Drax into shape throughout the film, the growth couldn't be more evident, and it's this sort of development that I love to see. The various acknowledgements to previous plot points, nods and jokes were paid off very smoothly in this one. The appearance of Kevin Bacon being one of them referenced in Infinity War, Rocket being referred to as a raccoon, Nebula wanting that bacon was a brilliant delivery from Karen Gillan.
Go get Kevin Bacon.
I've got it.
Don't kill him.
Can't outrun me, Bacon!
Drax being mistaken for Kratos, Bacon referencing Batman, though Eternals did make mention of Superman, the Guardians sporting a new ship called the Bowie, Bucky's arm as a gift to Rocket was the cherry on the cake for me, and a nostalgia-based moment with Groot receiving the original Game Boy as an upgrade to his old handheld arcade console were all excellent ways to deliver on previous jokes set up within the other Guardians and Avengers movies. The information we received from this one about Mantis and her relationship with the rest of the Guardians is a true highlight, and likely stronger due to her empathic abilities. We got little insights into the rest of the crew's emotional states right now, where we had Peter stuck in a rut likely due to the return from the blip. When you consider the mental anguish from the war with Thanos before then the losing Gamora, then the time we didn't see with Thor, and now it's Christmas with that empty feeling in his heart, and however much it may have warmed him to find out that he has a blood connection with someone out there, we're left wondering how he'll be in Guardians 3. Rocket has certainly mellowed out in this one, as has Groot, that play more background supporting roles in this installment, but Rocket seemed to be developing a budding friendship with Cosmo the Space Dog. The ice on Nebula's heart certainly melted in the time she spent with the Avengers, as she supports the Guardians now and assisted Mantis in their efforts to surprise Quill, then proceeds to hug the gang as they say goodbye to Kevin. Really big development, even subtly. Kraglin is becoming a more prominent figure in the group and possibly could become a co-leader for the Guardians, as Gunn has confirmed that Guardians 3 will be the shift change for a lot of the group, and we will be saying goodbye to some of the originals. Drax remained very much the same, but felt improved, which is a bizarre thing to say. Dave Bautista will be missed in this role if Guardians 3 is set to be his final minutes in it, and honestly this was a brilliant way to utilise the character if we are saying goodbye to Drax. Then lastly, to position Mantis in the leading role for once was a risk and probably won't be well received by everyone or to everyone's tastes, but I really enjoyed it. I think it was refined enough to accommodate both the humour, allotted time and character development, which meant we didn't get a wasted breath from her, so it was the most succinct side to Mantis that we've had so far in my mind. I couldn't tell you every little nook and cranny when it comes to the details and little hints and Easter eggs when it comes to these films, but I can assure you that I do appreciate them when I do spot them, and in terms of the visuals, this was the best that Phase 4 has delivered in an entire production so far. The CG looks solid, and it was limited, which supported its believability. The built sets helped dramatically for world building, though it's likely, as decent as it is a tag-on to the production for Guardians 3. Meaning they would have had a bigger budget.
Money!
The music is always designed to be a diegetic complement to the scene or the movie as a whole, and this did nothing less than what previous Guardians movies have done, and delivered a stellar lineup of music that you could really get yourself into. Especially that opening number performed by the 97s, with the lyrics reportedly being written by Gunn, who provides a rather disturbingly amusing interpretation of the old Christmas tale when it comes to Santa.
Well, you have to get to the part where Santa gets lusted for breaking and entering. Where the hell is that? It's not breaking and entering. Oh, keep reading. I think it qualifies.
The animated scenes were excellent additions too, but I would have loved to see Michael Rooker back with the fin one more time. And just having that little add-on at the end that the guns were his first gift to Peter was an excellent way to tie everything together and their relationship that we've witnessed throughout the films. Coming out of this, I'm reminded of why I fell in love with the MCU. The camaraderie between the Guardians and the twisted relationships formed between them over the years have been exploited from what we got in the comics, and I couldn't be more grateful for it, as the Guardians are honestly the last vestiges of the golden era for the MCU. And it will be a cold day in hell when we have to say goodbye to such a beloved group. This was nothing short of what a Guardians movie should be, and I'm hyped to see how they conclude their journeys in the third film. That's going to do it for me though, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button, drop a comment down below, let me know what you thought of this film. Don't forget to subscribe as I've got more content on the way, and until next time, take care and have a lovely holiday.